Coming up on Tech News Today, we'll tell you the stuff Steve Jobs didn't say in his Apple announcement that you probably want to know. Also, why I'm more excited about Mozilla's App Store than Apple's. And Samsung or a hole in the head? I'll choose. Coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, October 20th, 2010. Happy birthday, Tim. Tech News Today is brought to you by Ford and voice-activated sync, featuring true hands-free calling, turn-by-turn directions, 911 assist, and more. Available exclusively on Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles. For more details, visit syncmyridepodcast.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Becky Worley.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is show 100.
What?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
I thought I'd never see 100 again.
Kicking around all the tech news of the day. Apparently a company, not a couple.
A company.
A company named Apple. Not Apple Computer, just Apple Core.
Oh, Apple Core Records.
Yeah, I think they're the record company. Announced
Good music.
Some stuff today out there in the Cupertino. Were you there, Becky?
I was there. I was in the fifth row. I did post a TWiT pic at the back of Steve Jobs' head. So, you know, it was an event. And the first hour was kind of a snoozer. It was like all of the upgrades to iLife. Some cool things, but I'll let you run down all of the big announcements.
A lot of you have probably heard this already by the time you're listening to this. But iLife 11 available today. That is Wednesday, October 20th. Free on new Macs. Upgrade for existing Macs, $49. FaceTime coming to the Mac. There's a FaceTime app beta you can download from apple.com. Go to apple.com/FaceTime if you want to find it. They previewed OS X Lion. That's the next version of OS X. They always name them after big cats. I think that was a lion in the background.
I don't know.
Jobs,
I could have been clearing my throat.
Jobs called it OS X meets the iPad because they're going to have an app store. They're going to have mission control where you can launch. They're trying to add some iOS type stuff to OS X Lion. And then the big announcement was new MacBook Airs. They've got an 11-inch model for $1,000 with 64 gigs of memory, $1,200 for 128 gigs. 13-inch MacBook Air is 128 gigs, $1,299, and 256 gigs, $1,599. So
Yeah,
you
and
got to play with them, right?
I did. And the first thing that struck me as someone who's in the market for a new laptop was that these are pretty low powered. We're talking about 1.6 gigahertz, and they're really limited. Obviously, no DVD drives. They have limited inputs. So we're talking about 1 or 2 USB, no FireWire, no mic inputs, only headphone jack. There's a display output, and you know it's really kind of limited in that regard. They felt great. They looked beautiful. I mean, teeny tiny. So we're talking about, what is it, 2-point-something pounds. It was really
2.9 pounds for the 13-inch, and I think like 2.5 or 6 for the 11-inch.
And 0.86 inches at its thickest, and it tapers down. So really, these are very portable, 7-hour battery life. That appeals. Looked and felt great. The display was beautiful, but then you have to ask yourself, $1,000 for a Mac netbook?
Yeah, for a netbook,
Really?
essentially. Yeah, exactly.
That's fundamentally what it felt like. And I think that that's going to be a tough sell for people, especially since the initial MacBook Air wasn't such a home run.
Yeah, it was a little expensive. Now, these prices, depending on how you look at it, are pretty aggressive if you're thinking of them as MacBook Airs. They're a little expensive if you're thinking about them as thin and light laptops or netbooks. The other thing was the FaceTime announcement. Now, we actually had you call in to MacBreak Weekly on TWiT over FaceTime off of the desktop. I've been playing around off the desktop. However, your bugaboo is still about the openness, bringing FaceTime to the laptop. Does that change your opinion about whether it's actually going to go open or not?
So, and let's just back out of this for people who might not understand the issue. So what they announced today is that from your iOS device that's FaceTime enabled, you can make phone calls to a desktop software application that allows you to do video chatting. So it's kind of like Skype to phone. But the problem is, it's not for Skype. It's just for a Mac application. And my issue is I find this to be very closed and sort of prohibitive to those who want to be able to call anybody via video conferencing who's got a laptop, a PC, a Mac, whatever. So I really think, and Steve Jobs alluded to it when they initially introduced FaceTime, that they've said they would open up the API so that other applications could use them. And I do not think that this has answered the question.
Why don't you ask him?
Well, I did.
What?
Yeah, I had my phone and I was FaceTiming with Leo at the time, and Steve came out and he wanted to meet and greet, you know, just kind of makes himself seen and shows himself. And it was a little bit of an ambush, but he was a really good sport. You can look for yourself. Say that again?
They're wonderful machines. I've been using one and they're great.
You like it a lot?
A lot.
Fits in the bag and you take it with you everywhere?
You don't even need a bag. They're 2.3, 2.9 pounds.
Can I ask you one other question? Does the fact that we now have FaceTime just on the Mac mean we won't see APIs for other video conferencing?
We didn't say any such thing.
Okay, just checking.
I like how he gives you the big smile at the end. He's a little nervous, like, wait a minute, she's asking me a question and I'm live on the FaceTime.
Wait, she was just talking to me about bags and stuff, and now she's throwing out APIs. That was a setup.
But you kind of gave him an out. He didn't actually answer the question, or you didn't give an out, but he took an out. He kind of didn't answer the question. He's just like, well, we didn't say any such thing.
Well, I think this is a dilemma for them because it certainly, if it makes the MacBook, or it makes the Mac laptops much more appealing if you're an iPhone owner who wants to FaceTime with your kids at home. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a good marketing tool, but is it good for the end user? Not so much.
This is no different than Skype, except in two ways. One is you can make video calls from your iPhone to a desktop, which you can't do with Skype. Skype is blocked on the iPhone from making a video call to Skype on a desktop. And the other way is you can only make that call to a Mac desktop. This is not FaceTime for Windows. This is not FaceTime for everyone. This is only OS X Apple-made FaceTime.
And only, I mean, as far as I could tell upstairs, Snow Leopard and above, right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
tried
that's
to
a good
install
question.
it on mine, and I couldn't, and it's not on Snow Leopard. It said that I was missing some sort of security patch, but when I checked my installs, it was there. So
And Skype, it doesn't matter. So.
Yeah.
Right. And keep in mind, there are clients that do this in the Android world. There's Damaca is one of them that lets you mobile phone to desktop. So there are sort of add-on apps, but they're sort of sneaky right now because everyone's worried they're going to get blocked, and this whole, it's the Wild West out there right now for mobile video calling.
Now, some things that weren't announced in the actual keynote announcement, it wasn't a keynote, but the actual press conference, MacBook Airs, the new MacBook Airs come with a USB drive that has your software reinstalled. So instead of a CD, because there's no CD drive for the MacBook Air, you get a little flash drive. So that's kind of nifty. Also, Engadget noticed when they were playing with the MacBook Airs in the Magic Room that they didn't come with Adobe Flash pre-installed. Now, we don't know if this is the way they'll ship, but is Apple just kind of taking a little piss on Adobe and like, you know what? We used to pre-install Flash for everybody. We're not going to do that anymore.
No, they're making their point. I can tell you that. And I want to thank one person. Travis Denny just corrected me. I said it was 0.86 at its thickest point. The MacBook Air is 0.68.
Just a little dyslexia.
Yes, please forgive me. But that's a significant. So, anyways. And finally,
there was a MacBook Pro. Refresh is even a strong word. They added a 2.8 gigahertz Core i7 option to the 15-inch and 17-inch MacBook. So there was a really tiny tweak to the line. It doesn't even change the default option.
We kind of had a bet with Leo that there would be a refresh on the MacBook Pros. You and I were, I think, projecting, aspirationally hoping because we want them. So maybe we should just call this a truce. It's not quite an upgrade, but at least they did something around it.
And by the way, getting back to Flash, I should point out you can still install Adobe Flash on OS X. It's not like it's blocked. It's just they used to install it for you. Now they don't. That's no different than Windows. Windows doesn't come with Adobe Flash pre-installed unless the manufacturer has done it. Microsoft doesn't do it for you either. So
now I want to ask one question to you, Tom. So one of the things in the keynote was they talked about the fact that 20% market share for Macs now. And those were numbers from NPD, and they're different from a lot of the numbers that I've seen out there. I went and checked. Do you see the Mac and this, they called this the back to the Mac announcement. Do you see a real growth here that will continue and that market share is really, really moving, or is this just inching and incremental?
Well, it's only U.S. market share, so I don't know how significant it really is in the long term. There's a little halo effect, I guess, from people going and buying iPads, seeing MacBooks. I do think they're going to have to refresh the MacBook line more than the MacBook Airs if they want to keep that market share. It's also just 10%. I mean, that's the market share number that I saw. I know they threw around a lot of numbers fast and loose today, and so it's a good number for Apple, but it's not a stunning number, and it's still less than half of the number of HP. And I believe Dell is number 2. So it's good for Apple. I wouldn't make too much out of it. That's what I'd say.
Do you think the fact that Apple now has 2 different types of laptops at $999 or right around those parts makes their kind of offerings any more confusing?
Say goodbye to the $999 MacBook.
Yeah,
that was the last of the MacBooks. It was the white MacBook. They were kind of selling it out anyway because they already have a 13-inch MacBook Pro. So I'd say no.
The new MacBook is the MacBook Air, basically.
Because they retired the MacBook. They only had the 13-inch MacBook Pro. They had that white MacBook kind of just hanging around at $999 because they just wanted to sell them out, I feel like. So,
that makes sense.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank Ford and voice-activated sync for helping to bring you tech news today. Problem for a lot of folks these days when driving is you want to do something else. Now, I think you should pay attention to the road. And what Ford voice-activated sync does is lets you pay attention to the road while you manage your playlist or switch from music to an ebook or have a text message read to you or send an urgent text message, say, hey, I'm almost there. Check out, I'll be there, without taking your hands off the wheel, without taking your eyes off the road. You can still pay attention and drive safely. It's true hands-free calling, turn-by-turn directions, 911 assist, and more. Available exclusively on Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles. Most Bluetooth-enabled mobile phones work right when you get in. You get the real-time traffic alerts, weather, all while keeping your eyes on the road. So if you'd like to learn more about sync, check it out, syncmyridepodcast.com. It comes standard on some Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles. It also is optional on others, and it's just a great way to drive. I was able to go on a cruise with Leo. We were driving around, having a great conversation, listen to the girl with the dragon tattoo and some podcasts and music. Never felt like, oh, you know what, he really needs to pay attention to the road because his eyes were on the road the whole time. Works with an iPod or a Zune. Just say, hey, call Lisa. Tell her I'm late. And it calls Lisa for you. Reads text messages, all that stuff. So check it out, syncmyridepodcast.com, and we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Let's move on to something that I'm actually a little more excited about than the Apple announcement, because we sort of glossed over it, but Apple made a big deal about the fact that they're bringing an app store to OS X Lion, and that's going to be coming in the summer. OS X Lion's coming in summer of 2011. That will allow you to download and buy apps from Apple on your Mac. This is no different than what you can do now, except it's a nice little app store. It's tidy like you get on an iPad or an iPhone. Mozilla is announcing a prototype for a web app store that is cross-platform. It doesn't just work on Firefox. It also works on any HTML5 compliant browser. It's going to work on Safari. It's going to work on Chrome. It's going to work on Opera. It's going to work on Internet Explorer 9. And they announced this at the same time that Google announced this back at Google I/O. Now, Mozilla has put out a prototype, so they've kind of scooped Google a little bit. And Google also will only work on Chrome. This one's cross-browser. Have you had a chance to look at any of this stuff, Becky?
I haven't. I was mostly looking at the app store that Apple put out today, and I just think it's the ecosystem that's being created around app stores. First of all, isn't this just software? Why are we calling them? Everything's an app store. Yeah,
it's a kind of a buzzword, right? Yeah,
didn't we have download.com for about the last forever?
Or Two Cows?
Yeah. What was it, Handango? Maybe.
Actually, if you go to apple.com, they have a software store right there, right?
Yeah, I just I find it fascinating that this is a new, not only is it a new marketing term, but it also seems to be a new business model, because if you're the publisher, you're taking 30%, or that's the model that Apple has. And so this distribution method is certainly gaining momentum, but I also think to use the term that has been used often around all of these apps and all of these operating systems, that it does create a bit of a fracturing.
Well, it's just a repository. Anybody who's used Linux or Unix is familiar with the repository system and has been touting it for decades, how awesome it is to be able to have all of the software you want to download managed in a single repository or even multiple repositories, just because it organizes it. It makes it nicer. It's easier to install. It's easier to manage. You can keep updates going. And anybody who's used an Android or iPhone or one of these other smartphone operating systems that automatically tells you, hey, there's an update for this. Let me update that for you, knows one of those benefits. So there is some real goodness to this sort of thing. The question is, do we want to move away from open installations into that curated store that Apple's got? I mean, this isn't a repository like you have on Linux that's open to all comers. This is Apple saying, I don't know about that fart app. You know, let's keep that out of there. And you may like that for that. That's why I like this Mozilla web app store. It'll hopefully allow you offline access to web apps. It'll organize them for you, so you've got them all in one place. You've got a dashboard, and it's open to all comers. It's just a repository for web apps, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, and I think there are spaces for all kinds of user graphics in this, depending on what your needs, wants, and sort of ethics around this are. Whether you want, I want something I just don't have to worry about it. Just, is this safe? Okay, fine, I'll download it. Or I don't want anybody telling me what I can or can't do, and that there's going to be different flavors and sort of cultures in each of these app stores. And I think that that does bring value to the diversity.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of somebody collecting things and sort of popularizing apt-get, but this idea that somehow these are new is a little silly to anybody who knows this. And the idea that it might be a Trojan horse, like Leo was saying during our coverage this morning, to eventually taking OS X away from the open architecture where I can install anything that's compiled for OS X without anybody's approval, that scares me. It starts to make me think, you know what, I might want to go back to a Windows machine dual boot with Linux and just give up OS X if that's the way they end up going. They're not going there right now, but this could be the thin edge of the wedge there.
Thin edge of the wedge for the repository. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now that's a title. Anyway, back to the main story. Oh, by the way, 90 days. You'll be able to download and play with the iOS store, or not the iOS store, the App Store for OS X in 90 days. Meanwhile, you can go to Mozilla Labs and check out open web applications right now at apps.mozilalabs.com if you want to take a look at that. Lenovo says no Android tablet in the U.S. until Honeycomb. They're going to put one out in China. So they obviously don't have a principled objection to it. But no Android tablet, not even Gingerbread. When Froyo's the current one, they're not even going to do a 3.0. They're going to wait till Honeycomb, the one after Gingerbread. And they're not going to do a Windows 7 tablet at all.
What's the motivation for this? I mean, in some senses, they don't really have to jump on the bandwagon of all the Android Gingerbread tablets that are coming out at CES, because I think they probably have a slower adoption curve, but it doesn't seem like it's necessarily of benefit to them in terms of getting their name out there in the space.
This may be a smart move to say, look, let's let the other guys beat up against the iPad and make the mistakes, and then we can go in once Android has actually been matured and has had the benefit of learning from everyone else's experiences, and then we can make a good tablet that really has a chance to compete.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does. That might be what they're up to. I don't know. But anyway, you know, it's of note, I guess, that a company is not wading into the tablet wars when it seems like everyone else is. The Wrap, a blog that covers Hollywood, reminded us in a story today that back in the 90s, Warner Brothers owned a little bit of Netflix because they wanted some leverage against Blockbuster. And then when Netflix went public in 2002, they sold off the stock pretty close thereafter. And now they don't own a stake of what is turning out to be the most successful way to stream movies over the internet.
Yeah, Netflix is a darling, really, of the stock market. People love their stock. The price is going up, 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 up. And I think sky's the limit for Netflix. The potential for them in distribution is immense, and they've been so smart in diversifying their channels. And I think finally people are getting, okay, they've got enough traction. This is happening.
Yeah, it's. I guess there's not much news here except to say, wow, would Netflix be different if studios had a stake in it these days. I don't know if that would impede them or help them. It might help them with all these licensing issues, although it could also cause problems with the SEC, I suppose, in some sort of anti-competitive way. But Netflix seems to be succeeding quite well without the studio's help, so I wonder if it wouldn't have slowed them down, if there would have been pressure like, don't do this, don't do that, kind of what we see with Hulu, where you know it could be so much more, but the studios that actually, the networks that actually own part of it are sort of impeding it from being what it could be.
Yeah, and this is where it shows that someone who gets what the consumer needs is going to reap the financial benefit and see their stock really gain ground because the consumers are responding. So I think it's a great win for consumers, and it's a great win to say, hey, there is a business model outside of the traditional studios and studios and their existing distribution with something that embraces digital content.
Let's move on to Facebook fighting the spammers. They once got Sanford Wallace, the self-titled king of spam, fined $71 million? $711 million. They now filed lawsuits against Jason Swan of Long Island, New York, who had been running more than 27 fake profiles and 13 fake pages on Facebook. They also went after somebody named Richter from Long Island, who'd been running 40 fake profiles, and Canada-based Max Bounty Inc., which they say had been misappropriating Facebook's logo and using deceptive marketing. This is one interesting thing about Facebook. They don't take this stuff lying down. They bring you to court. And because it's a closed system, they're able to find out exactly who you are and take you to court. They have a lot more control versus spammers in the open email where it's hard to track them down. It's hard to prove they're doing something wrong and who brings the lawsuit.
This is one business model I hadn't considered for Facebook, is that they really could be a vehicle for less spam. I mean, I think we underestimate in the tech community how much of a problem for the average consumer spam is, and that they don't feel like they can do anything about it.
Yeah, so could Facebook end up in some strange way the company that ends up doing the most to fight spam in court? In federal court, just like in The Social Network.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should thank Bob Kelly for that. He said it first in the chat room. All right, real quickly before we get to the news fuse, I want to point out that the ACLU has come out all guns firing with a lengthy PDF report about network neutrality, taking an interesting tactic on it, saying it's a free speech issue. Now, this isn't the first time somebody said this, but they have a very organized defense. They really want to push this and get away from the debate over net neutrality as a regulatory issue, whether businesses should be regulated or not, and say, look, you wouldn't, they really want to push this argument, which we've heard before, you wouldn't tell people what they can and can't say over the phone. Why are you telling people what they can and can't transmit over the internet?
Let's just complicate this even more by making it have to do with constitutionality.
Well, yeah, exactly. It does complicate it, but it also gives them a much bigger leverage if they can make it stick. This is the first step in them trying to push it that way.
Who can blame them? I mean, if you can lay this down and create this parallel, then I think it does give a lot more credence to the argument. Will the judge buy it? Not so sure. Yeah, well, we'll see where they go with it, but it's a part of the argument that cropped up a lot in the early days, but has been overshadowed lately by all of the debates around the FCC. So I think the ACLU is taking the opportunity to say, FCC seems to be rolling back on this. Let's push forward on the First Amendment side of things. All right, time for the news fuse. Fox has taken their local stations off of cable for 3 million New York City area Cablevision subscribers. That meant no baseball yesterday, championship baseball. But the FCC stepped in to fill the gap, kinda. The regulatory agency posted 4 times on its Twitter account with updates about the game and linked to a page that showed consumers how to set up an antenna to get free over-the-air broadcasts of the blocked stations. Excellent. Well, you know, we did have somebody from Brooklyn write in and say, like, you know what? Don't forget us folks that actually have an apartment that faces the wrong way, and we can't pick up over any of the over-the-air stations since the digital TV transmission because they're directional. So anyway, I just wanted to
throw that out for him. Recycling has been suggested as a way to avoid running out of IP addresses before everyone makes the switch to IPv6. Interop has decided to put that into practice, returning 99% of the 45.x.x.x block to Aaron. Aaron are the folks that administer IP address. In layman's terms, that means more IP addresses back in the pool that could hold us over for, people estimate, an extra month. Better than nothing.
Yeah, that's good. The Register reports that the domain name sex.com is set to be sold for $13 million. That's about what it was purchased for back in 2006. Bankrupt Escom LLC, sex.com's current owner, will transfer the domain to a company called Clover Holdings Limited. They're based in the island of St. Vincent's. This according to documents filed this week in a California court.
So $13 million must be what we thought. They paid 12 to 14 million, right? So 13 must be what they paid.
This domain, so much drama.
I know. It's a cursed domain. Starting today, Starbucks launches the free Starbucks Digital Network. It's been developed in connection with Yahoo and gives you free access to subscription news sources like the Wall Street Journal, music from iTunes, wellness articles from Rodale, check-ins via Foursquare, which are free anyway, and reviews from Zagat. Or Zagat. Do you say it Zagat? All of this happens over your Starbucks Wi-Fi on whatever device you got. So check it out. There might be some interesting stuff you can get for free there.
The Wall Street Journal play here is really good.
Yeah,
that's smart. Nice. Really smart. Chilingo, publisher of Angry Birds and the game I'm currently addicted to, Cut the Rope. These are games for smartphones. They're going to be acquired by Electronic Arts. This is happening for $20 million. EA is not acquiring the developer of Angry Birds, Rovio, but the acquisition will give EA more presence on mobile devices as they now own publisher Chilingo.
I have played Cut the Rope. I've stayed away from Angry Birds. I'm afraid of that.
Ooh.
After one too many Facebook privacy violation flaps, Google engineer Brian Kenish has created Facebook Disconnect. You can hear more about it on This Week in Google. It is a Google Chrome extension that obliterates all Facebook Connect functionality and all traffic from third-party sites to Facebook servers if you're using the Chrome browser. So if you use Chrome and you're a little leery about what Facebook might be hearing about you, try out this extension.
Samsung reportedly working on a new platform that will power both mobile devices and TVs. Just what we needed. Yeah. Another platform. Details are sparse with no target launch date yet. But we're kind of hoping that this is just a smokescreen for Samsung taking a bigger hand in Android development. Is that your postulation, Sir Tom?
Yeah, I was thinking, gosh, you know what? What do I need? Because we only have Migo and Symbian and Windows Phone 7 and RIM OS and the new RIM OS based on QNX and Android and iOS.
It's a desert out there.
Should I get a hole in my head or another mobile operating system?
You need that, yeah.
Maybe that's what they'll call it, the hole in the head.
The Samsung hole in the head.
That's right.
You needed it. All right, finally, TechnologyReview.com reporting on a really interesting cell phone network being tested out in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. XG Technology made the network using the unrestricted 900 megahertz band. That's the band, for instance, often used by cordless phones. So if you have a cordless phone, you may be using the 900 megahertz band. It's unlicensed. You don't have to pay to use it. So what they did is they created a technology that senses whether that band is being used or not and figures out how to broadcast in an unused portion of that. Unlike previous sensing technology, though, it doesn't just say, oh, there's a cordless phone using that part of the 900 megahertz spectrum. I'm never going to use that. It checks to see if the phone's using it right then and then starts using it until it senses the phone's going to use it, and then it stops. It's an oversimplification, but it's essentially how it works. It just kind of weaves its way around, and they think this is going to allow them to run an entire cell phone network. They're going to try it out with around 110,000 people in Fort Lauderdale. We'll let you know how it goes. It could save you a lot of money setting up a cell phone network if you don't have to bid on the spectrum.
This is the best. So my guy who delivers packages via UPS will drive by, drop the package, and then start driving out. And then as he's making a phone call, he'll be able to pick up my baby monitor. He'll be able to see if the kids are still napping or not, right? Isn't that how it's going to work?
No, the way it would work is if your baby monitor's running, it wouldn't use the slice that your baby monitor is using.
Sure.
Oh, put on your tinfoil hat.
I'm just saying, I'll believe it when I see it. Perfect reception.
Let's move on to the calendar.
Right. Okay. The calendar. Samsung Galaxy Tab landing November 11th. That's the news out today. $600 for the Tab. A lot of people excited about this.
$600. Now, that's no contract, so they're not giving you a subsidized price on Verizon.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think? People are going to buy that? It's a lot of coin.
That is a lot. Although Verizon's banking on the folks who want it going, I want it on Verizon. I will do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is maybe this is the new model is they throw it out there at top dollar and then they just very quickly discount it. But that's a lot of money.
My guess, you know what? I bet you're right. I bet they come out with a subsidized version a few months later going, oh, we've had so much pent-up demand for the subsidized version with a contract that we decided to do that after all.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten all of you suckers to pay $600, Merritt.
So much demand, so we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Windows Phone 7. I know that we're going to start seeing the models tomorrow. They're going to be coming out. The ones that we haven't already seen, they're all coming off of their top secret status, and they're going to arrive in UK shops on October 21st. So you're going to get a look at the Windows Phone 7. I've had a chance to play around with one, and I got to tell you, it's compelling. It's different. It's not the kin. And I think that people will be interested to take a look and see if it will actually gain traction. Barnes & Noble has an event on Tuesday, October 26th in New York. Could it be the new Nook? Just in time for holiday?
Oh.
The Nookie book?
Everybody's doing press events. Holiday season. Yeah, it's going to be a new Nook. It has to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming down. And then also, I think it's November 4th, we're going to have a big event for the Kinect. That's going to be coming out then.
Right.
And then Boxy Box goes to pre-order November 10th, ships to retail 11/17.
Yeah, so if you pre-ordered it, you're going to get it on the 10th. Otherwise, you have to wait for it to go to retail.
Got it. Rollouts for holiday.
On to the emails to TNT@twit.tv.
Just a word on your StarCraft ban story yesterday, writes Andrew in New Jersey. The guy was banned for using a third-party trainer that modifies the StarCraft EXE then Blizzard provides cheat codes for single player, but these disable achievements. So really, this guy was trying to get his achievements without earning them. If he wanted to chat with his friends while messing around in the single player, the game already provides a means to do that. So our attempt to defend him, maybe... I
think, yeah, he's being left with fewer and fewer defenses, I have to say. Glenn was among the many people who wrote in with their opinion on News Fuse, and it turns out most of you guys love it just as it is. So thanks, everybody, for writing in. Give us your opinion. We are always open to hearing about constructive criticism, though, and Glenn was one of the people that gave us a little more than just I love it. He said sometimes he thinks we read it too fast. He'd like us to slow down. Make sure that we always give a couple sentences giving some context or explanation, not just the headline, which I think we do, but maybe because we're reading it so fast, he doesn't get that. He says, we want to know what you think about the headline, not just the headline. Give us content, even if it is just brief, and read slower so we can comprehend what you were talking about. Appreciate that feedback.
We tried to do that a little bit today, and it actually did feel more leisurely. Not the full discussion, but just a little pepper.
Definitely.
This one from Chris in Portland, Oregon. He says, I'm sure you'll get this from quite a few people, but congrats on show 100. By the way, Jason, you are a welcome addition to the TNT crew.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. Tenaciously and triumphantly texting tangents towards Ted's tubes. Ted here being Ted Stevens, rip, from Chris in Portland, Oregon. We had to read that little part there because, of course, he gave us the nice compliment. Yeah. So happy birthday, TNT.
And I'm sure he wanted us to include balloons, so there you go. Oh, except they went the reverse direction. Those balloons fell to the ground.
Well, no, they were dropped from above. It was a balloon drop.
I like that. Okay, yeah, they were all up there in nets, and we released them. Very good.
So Burke and Eileen and Jammerby worked so hard to put those balloons up there. Thank you, guys.
That was nice of you guys.
All right. It does not feel like 100 episodes. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I'll tell you what, it really doesn't feel like 100 episodes to me.
Probably doesn't feel like 100 episodes to you either, Worley.
It's already.
Oh, you're right, Tom. You're very right. You have borne the brunt of the TNT century.
Reminds me, they're all disappearing tomorrow. No Jason, no Becky, no Kiki. It looks like Scott Johnson and Ayaz will be joining me tomorrow. I'm not sure if Jammerby's running the board or not. Somebody will be running the board.
Down here.
Jammerby's
Just
running
start
the board
reading chat comments if you're not sure what to do.
It's gonna be fine. You guys don't worry. Don't think another thought about me. Just go do whatever it is you have to do.
All right,
I'll be fine. All right, thanks, everybody. Twit.tv/TNT is our email address. No, it's not. It's our web address. Our email address is TNT@twit.tv because that's how email addresses work. They have a little @ symbol in between. That's what that's called. And you can call us. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. We listen to them. We don't always get a chance to play them, but we listen. 260-TNT show. We'll talk to you tomorrow. At least I will.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah!